She was the most desired woman on earth. Yet she died alone, face down, phone in hand, in a locked bedroom. Official reports say it was suicide. But rumors of secret affairs with the Kennedys, FBI surveillance, and silenced threats refused to die. Marilyn Monroe wasn't just a Hollywood icon. She was a ticking time bomb in a world that built her up, broke her down, and may have buried more than just her body. Behind the diamonds and red lips was a woman desperate to be loved, terrified to be forgotten, and caught in the cruel machinery of fame. This isn't the fairy tale. This is the real story of Marilyn Monroe, and it's darker than anyone ever dared to admit. Norma Jean, the girl behind the icon. Long before the diamonds and red lipstick, there was a girl named Norma Jean Mortensen. Born on June 1st, 1926 in Los Angeles, her life began in chaos. Her mother Gladys was plagued by severe mental illness, institutionalized when Marilyn was just a child. Her father, unknown. Marilyn would later say she never even saw a photo of him. She was passed between foster families where the trauma compounded. One foster mother shattered a porcelain plate over her head. In another home, she endured sexual abuse. These moments didn't just leave scars, they built armor. It's often forgotten that Marilyn spent part of her youth in the Los Angeles Orphans' Home Society, where she once said she felt like she didn't exist. Her sense of safety was constantly under threat. The only place she found peace was in the cinema. Theaters became cathedrals. Watching Greta Garbo and Jean Harlow on the screen, she began to understand the power of performance. The idea that she could transform pain into beauty, that she could become someone the world admired. At 16, in a desperate bid to avoid returning to an orphanage, she married her neighbor James Dougherty. He was 21. She was a child playing house. When he joined the Merchant Marines, she was left behind, working at a munitions plant. It was there that a military photographer noticed her. The result? Her first modeling photo. Her image radiated even then. Soon she was modeling full-time. She posed for pin-up magazines, dyed her hair platinum blonde, and began reshaping her identity. Norma Jean was shy, bookish, uncertain. But Marilyn Monroe, she was luminous. Chapter 2. Becoming Marilyn, Reinvention and Rise. Hollywood didn't hand Marilyn Monroe stardom. It made her claw for it. Her early career was filled with small roles and screen tests where she was told to walk sexier and speak softer. Men wrote her lines. Women envied her curves, but few saw her intellect. She devoured literature. She kept volumes of Dostoevsky, Joyce, and Rilke by her bedside. She filled notebooks with reflections, anxieties, and dreams. When she wasn't studying her scripts, she was studying herself, her insecurities, her trauma, her purpose. She once took a job at Columbia Pictures, where the head of the studio reportedly said she was just another pretty face. That same year, she was dropped, but she didn't give up. Instead, she used her modeling career and growing popularity with troops during World War II to build leverage in Hollywood. Her breakout came in the early 1950s with roles in Niagara and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Her portrayal of Lorelei Lee wasn't just comedic, it was cunning. She played the part of a gold digger with a wink, flipping the male gaze back on itself. The performance of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend wasn't a song. It was a statement. Still, she was frustrated by how the studios typecast her. She wanted meatier roles, deeper characters. In 1955, she left Hollywood for New York, joined the Actors Studio, and studied under Lee Strasberg. There, among stage actors and playwrights, she stripped away the persona and pursued craft. Strasberg would later say she had the deepest emotional range of anyone I've ever worked with. That same year, she launched Marilyn Monroe Productions. It wasn't just symbolic. She fought 20th Century Fox for autonomy and won. Her renegotiated contract gave her $100,000 per film, plus script and director approval. In the 1950s, that was unheard of for a woman. It wasn't just a power move, it was a revolution. Marilyn became the first woman to own her own production company under her own name in Hollywood. With Bus Stop and The Prince and The Showgirl, she began to reshape her legacy. And then came Some Like It Hot. Despite her personal turmoil behind the scenes, her performance was electric. She won a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Comedy. The critics raved. The audiences roared. She had arrived not as a starlet, but as a star. But as her fame grew, so did her loneliness. And inside her, always, Norma Jean still whispered. Chapter 3, The Golden Cage, Stardom, Power, and Control. At the peak of her fame, Marilyn Monroe was everywhere and nowhere. Her face graced billboards, magazines, marquees. Yet few saw past the surface. Her image was a commodity, her soul, often collateral damage. Joe DiMaggio saw the woman behind the flashbulbs, but his old-school values clashed with her rising star. When her skirt famously blew above her knees on Lexington Avenue for the 7-year itch, he didn't see a performance. He saw a humiliation. They fought that night, loudly, publicly. Days later, they divorced. Arthur Miller seemed different. A man of ideas, a man who listened. But their fairy tale unraveled under the weight of miscarriages, Monroe's insecurities, and Miller's disillusionment. He wrote in his journal that he was embarrassed by her. She read it. That betrayal cut deeper than any tabloid headline. Fame didn't just isolate her, it institutionalized her. The studio system scheduled her life, scripted her image, managed her medication. On set, she was expected to be perfect. Off set, she was treated like she was broken. Her lateness became legendary, not from arrogance, but anxiety. Monroe even endured a forced psychiatric hold in 1961. Against her will, she was locked inside Payne Whitney Psychiatric Clinic, where she described being held like a criminal. It was only after Joe DiMaggio's intervention that she was released. The woman known for the most dazzling smile in Hollywood was now trapped in a hospital gown behind locked doors. By the end of the 1950s, Monroe was emotionally and physically exhausted. But her fight for creative control never stopped. She wanted to be more than a product. She wanted to be real, and in a town built on illusion, that made her dangerous. Chapter 4. Love, Loneliness, and the Spotlight. Marilyn's love life was a war between survival and sincerity. She longed for safety, but every partner wanted Marilyn Monroe, not Norma Jean. Joe DiMaggio never stopped loving her. After her death, he sent roses to her grave 3 times a week for 20 years. Arthur Miller never stopped writing her into his characters. And the Kennedys? The truth remains foggy, but Monroe, strategic and lonely, walked dangerously close to secrets men in power would do anything to keep. One of the most iconic moments linking Monroe to the Kennedy dynasty was her breathy performance of Happy Birthday, Mr. President in 1962. Delivered in a flesh-colored gown so tight she had to be sewn into it, the moment was electric, provocative, and instantly historic. It ignited speculation about her affair with JFK and made headlines around the world. Behind closed doors, Marilyn was isolated. Her inner circle was shrinking. The Strasbergs, photographer Milton Green, makeup artist Alan Whitey Snyder. These were the people she trusted. But fame is a brutal filter. The people closest to her couldn't always reach her. She was often surrounded by prescription bottles. Nembutal for sleep, Seconal for anxiety, stimulants to stay alert. Different doctors wrote different prescriptions. They never communicated. The revolving door of medication blurred her days. At one point, she reportedly had prescriptions from 5 different physicians, none aware of the others. She made plans, scheduled photo shoots, took meetings. But behind the gloss, she was exhausted. Her performances became more sporadic, her lateness more chronic, her sorrow more visible. Studios labeled her difficult, but what they really meant was she was breaking. Chapter 5. The Final Days, Mystery, Scandal, and Silence. August 5th, 1962. At 3:30 a.m., Marilyn Monroe's housekeeper, Eunice Murray, called her psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greenson. Marilyn had locked her bedroom door and wasn't responding. Greenson arrived, broke in through a window, and found Marilyn lying face down, nude, clutching a telephone. Empty pill bottles were scattered around her bed. The coroner's report listed probable suicide due to acute barbiturate poisoning, specifically Nembutal and Seconal. But the word probable has haunted the case ever since. Almost immediately, inconsistencies emerged. No pill remnants in her stomach. Bruising on her body not accounted for. Bed sheets changed before police arrived. Time of death misreported. Missing telephone and police logs. Detective Jack Clemens, the first officer on the scene, later claimed, "It felt like we walked into a setup. Too clean, too coordinated." The myth of the Little Red Diary added fuel to the fire, a supposed notebook in which Monroe recorded sensitive political conversations, including those with JFK and RFK. The diary was allegedly taken from the scene, never to be seen again. Others have pointed to her final call logs, which include cryptic conversations with both Greenson and Peter Lawford, the brother-in-law of the Kennedys. Lawford claimed she sounded disoriented, panicked. Yet others said she seemed calm and clear-headed that day. She had been increasingly isolated, surrounded by a revolving door of doctors prescribing powerful sedatives, antidepressants, and amphetamines without coordination. The medical betrayal was silent, but lethal. Despite her fragility, Marilyn had plans. A new film, calls with friends, and a restructured contract with 20th Century Fox that granted her $100,000 and script control. Unheard of for women in that era. She was ready to take back control. And yet, that control slipped away. Witnesses changed their stories. Documents disappeared. The truth blurred. Joe DiMaggio arranged a private funeral. No Hollywood elites, no studios, just family and silence. For 20 years, he sent roses to her crypt, 3 times a week. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was a puzzle. Marilyn Monroe didn't just die. She was erased. Chapter 6. A Legacy of Light and Shadow. More than 6 decades after her death, Marilyn Monroe remains a paradox, celebrated and misunderstood, idolized yet exploited. She became a symbol of beauty and femininity, but also a cautionary tale about the cost of fame. Her image, sultry, breathless blonde, was commodified into a global brand. She became pop art, posters, Halloween costumes, and perfume campaigns. Andy Warhol immortalized her in a series of Technicolor prints, cementing her as both muse and martyr. But behind the bombshell icon was a woman of intellect, sensitivity, and ambition. Marilyn studied literature. She owned her own production company. She fought for better roles and equal pay long before Hollywood took those fights seriously. In private, she jotted poetry and raw thoughts into notebooks, dozens of which survive, revealing a haunting inner life. Modern celebrities owe part of their playbook to her, using vulnerability as power, embracing reinvention, controlling their image. She pioneered the model of production ownership that stars today take for granted. She made her pain public in an era that punished women for it. Her legacy is global. Museums and exhibitions dedicated to her still draw millions. Biopics like My Week with Marilyn and Blonde reignited debate over her truth versus her myth. In 2023 alone, Monroe's estate generated over $8 million in licensing revenue, proving her stardom endures across generations. Fashion still echoes her elegance. Designers cite her as a muse. Singers, from Madonna to Lady Gaga, credit her as an influence. And in feminist circles, she's often re-examined as a pioneer who used her sexuality as currency in a male-dominated world, long before empowerment became part of the cultural lexicon. Even now, researchers and documentarians dig into her past. Was she murdered? Did the Kennedys cut ties too late? Was her death orchestrated to protect political secrets? Or was it the tragic consequence of years of exploitation and untreated trauma? She wasn't just a movie star. She was a cultural shift. She challenged gender norms, defied industry power structures, and left behind a legacy far greater than the roles she played. In many ways, Marilyn Monroe is still unfinished, her story still being rewritten by every generation that rediscovers her. Some see a victim, others see a visionary. But perhaps the truth lies in the duality. She was both. A woman who lit up the world and lived in its shadows. A legend who never wanted to be one. A voice that was silenced, but never forgotten. Marilyn Monroe didn't just leave a mark. She left a mystery, a mirror, and a legacy that continues to echo, frame by frame, in the flicker of a projector light. Was Marilyn a cautionary tale, a revolutionary, or a casualty of power? Drop your take in the comments. Like and subscribe for more stories behind the legends.